Well, look, thanks for coming as well. I appreciate you taking the time, to speak to us.
No problem at all.
There's quite a lot to cover. I was just reading about you before. So you're obviously a business owner, a public speaker, published author, which was a best-selling book as well, expat on top of that, and you run a anti-bullying foundation of some kind. So quite a lot to get through, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Sort of starting from the beginning, as far back as you feel comfortable going, really. Whereabouts are you from in the UK originally?
Yeah, so I'm half English, half Danish. So my mum's side are all Vikings, and my dad's side are all Saxons. So I grew up in a mixture of places in the south of England. Army families, we moved around quite a lot, but mostly in sort of Wiltshire, Somerset area. The first kind of 7 years of my life was in Aldershot. Then we moved to kind of Bath area.
So nice parts of the UK, actually. All of those places are quite pleasant. There's nothing really too bad to say about any of them, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, I mean, you get nice spots and nasty spots in every area, right? But
yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Yeah. Maybe certainly very different environment to Dubai, I think.
Yeah. And you moved from there when you went to uni, or you was that the first time you sort of spent a significant period in any place if you're moving around as a child, or how was that?
Yeah, so I mean, we used to, I guess from the age of about 8 till 17, 18, I was pretty much in the Bath area, studying, working. And then when I was 18, I moved to Denmark and I started working as a chef. And I worked as a chef just to earn some money before I started my degree over there. And I went to Denmark to study architecture. And yeah, so I spent about 1.5 years studying architecture in Denmark. And I dropped out of university. For me, it was a case of it wasn't like uni in England, where all my friends were enjoying uni in England, the social side, the kind of getting a loan to pay for your social life. And for me, there was no loan, there was no grant. It was just, while university was free, which is a massive bonus for anyone in the EU at the time, which I wanted to make full use of. The reality for me was that, studying 8:30 till kind of 5:30, 6:30 at night, and then 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. I was basically washing dishes in a steakhouse to try and earn money to pay rent and stuff. And so after about 1.5 years of this, I pretty much had enough. I remember kind of going into university each day to see the lecturer, and my shoes, the only shoes I had, were still wet from the night before. It was pretty depressing. And I went to speak to her and I said, look, I love architecture. I find it fascinating. But where will I be in 30 years, 40 years? If I totally smash this, what's my life going to look like? And she did what any good professor would do. She tried to paint a very inspiring image of what that would look like, but it came from her kind of view and her picture of life and what success looked like. And for me, what she did kind of unknowingly was basically put a cap on what I could do and what I wanted to do. And that was just such a moment for me, a pivotal moment, because it stopped me in my tracks. I remember just going home and just being like, that's no longer inspiring, because there seems to be a cap on this based on what the lecturer has said I could do. So that night I booked a one-way flight to India, and I basically just carried on traveling around Southeast Asia and India. And I guess for me, that's where entrepreneurship really started. I didn't have any money, so I had to be very resourceful and very creative to try and see how much I could stretch the budget and travel for as long as possible.
Well, it's a pretty extreme decision to go from Denmark to India. Why India? What was appealing about that?
Yeah, I think probably as we chat and the stories come out, you'll probably notice I make fairly extreme decisions. But India always seemed like a really exciting place to travel. I remember looking at like a Lonely Planet guide and just being really inspired by it, and flicking through the pages and just being like, where's the most extreme place I could travel for the most incredible experiences? And India is one of those places, right, where it's just a real assault on the senses. I don't know if you've ever been to India.
I have, yeah. It's chaos
Yeah.
is the word I would use, I think.
Right, yeah, but somehow works, right? So it's all
Yeah,
like organized chaos, and you
yeah,
cross the road and you close your eyes, but it somehow works. And
yeah.
and for me, it was just the most exciting adventure. And a lot of my life building up to that was, you know, I was adventure was very much a high value of mine. You know, from the extreme sports I'd done up until that point to kind of cycling across the Sahara Desert or skydiving or whatever it is. There's a lot of things in my life which have kind of pushed me towards higher risk, more adventurous pursuits.
Fair. I would say even chefing is it's fairly hardcore. You know, when I was in hospitality, I noticed the chefs,
Yeah.
it really takes it out of them. Actually, it's a tough
Oh,
life. So
so I think chefs are probably some of the most stressed people I've ever met.
yeah. That's it. They all need
Yeah.
advice. That's for sure. That's cool. And
100%.
so you actually moving to Dubai, it's not really your first time as a expat, really. So Denmark would
No,
have been.
I mean, moving to Dubai was different because I had a wife and children, right? Well, I had one child at the time, and also we were starting a business here, so there was a lot of risk involved. You know, it was a big jump, a big risk, a big jump, but a different type of risk, right? I mean, you know, when you're young and you're traveling, it's your responsibility is to look after yourself. When you're running a business and you're a dad and you've got lots of staff, your responsibility is to look after your family, make sure they're safe, secure, but also make sure your team are kind of in a secure place as well, based on the risks you're taking, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. How long were you in India for?
Only a few months. You know, just picked up random work. I kind of worked in various hotels. One of the funny stories I've got is people always ask me what was kind of one of the first entrepreneurial gigs I had, and I often say it was being a monkey chaser. and people are like, "What's a monkey chaser?" Well, a monkey chaser is someone who chases monkeys, and it's not a very sustainable job, you know. And there's a long story short with the monkey chasing story. And I actually put this on a CV when I came back to the UK and I applied for university. I put this on the CV and sent it out to UCAS. But yeah, the monkey chasing job basically originated because I was sitting with a friend of mine having like a tea in a courtyard at the bottom of a hotel, and we looked up and there was branches all over this courtyard. No one else was there. You know, business was down because of all the branches. Source of the problem was monkeys, right? So monkeys were up there just breaking branches, chucking them down. So we basically said to the hotel owner, we can solve your monkey problem by chasing the monkeys out if you give us half board, you know, accommodation, whatever, for a week. So we did that. Yeah. So from monkey chasing to Southeast Asia, I realized that I could work with a lot of hotels, and again, kind of looking into how I could create an income while I was traveling to keep it going, to make the trip last longer. And I realized that I could basically go to train stations and ports where ferries were coming in and speak to tourists as they come off and say to them, you know, I know a great place with a great hotel owner, brilliant hotel with a good rate, and I'd have 10 to 15 people follow me after visiting, and I just you know, all the passports to the hotel owner, there's your 15 guests for the whole week. Can you put me up for the hotel for the week? And you know, I just did this throughout Asia, and it worked really well. You know, I guess there's that element of, you know, people wanting familiarity and trusting me because I was from the same place as them or whatever. But yeah, I think traveling taught me to be quite resourceful, and that's something that's really benefited me. I really feel like in entrepreneurship, it's resourcefulness and creativity are some of the best skills. I think we've seen that a lot in 2020 when everyone was highly disrupted. A lot of people had to pivot very, very quickly, and that required people to be quite resourceful and creative, right? So yeah. And then after that, I came back to the UK. Eventually had to come back. You know, there was what I was doing was great fun and it was an adventure, but it had to end at some point. I didn't want to study university anymore, but I wanted to do something physical. I was basically training on Thai boxing camps for a long time in Thailand while I was traveling. Sort of 8 hours a day, you know, 3 to 6 months training. It was pretty grueling, but really amazing, inspiring stuff. And I wanted to continue that when I got back to the UK. Had a decent background in martial arts at that point. I did about 18 years of training in martial arts. And I decided to become a personal trainer. And my first gig as a personal trainer was running a Thai boxing club. And So I started this Thai boxing club in Bath. It was a fairly rundown gym, and it was very much a place people went because they wanted to kind of let off steam during the week. And you know, a lot of guys were there because they wanted to do sparring and stuff and get in good shape. But it was a fairly high testosterone kind of gym, and I realized that a lot of the work I was doing was with a lot of the adolescents there, the kind of 14 to 17-year-old teenagers, particularly boys in that gym at that time. And you know, a lot of them came from very disadvantaged backgrounds. They were often sleeping rough on the street. They were into drugs, into alcohol. You know, they'd come in with black eyes. They had really unhealthy relationships around them with their family, with their friends. A lot of them had been kicked out of school, so they were just finding work. It was pretty desperate, some of the stories and situations they were finding themselves in. And one of the things I realized was we were making a really big impact. Well, I was making, through the work I was doing them, a really big impact, because essentially I was giving them a moral compass and giving them, you know, a way to kind of look at life a little bit differently, and developing their conduct, boosting their confidence, and giving them drive and something to really put themselves into. And it suddenly dawned on me, you know, for these guys, what if I had started this work with them from a younger age? You know, where would they be now? What sort of decisions would they make now if they had the same opportunities I had, studying martial arts and the tenets of Taekwondo and living through strong values, you know, through a lot of it through what was kind of passed down from me being in an army family, and, you know, the kind of respect and conduct, but that combined with the martial arts side and that real focus on character development I had as a young person. What if they had that from a younger age, despite the situation they were in? What decisions would they have made differently to what they were kind of making now? And I realized that the reality was there would have been this kind of compounding snowball effect of positive decisions, which would have completely reshaped their life. So I was really inspired to start working with younger children. And I remember going to the primary school where I had basically grown up in in the village I was growing up in. And I started a 6-week course there, 100 students in the school, and around 20 signed up to a full-time club with us. And that was the beginning. That was the first Warrior Academy club. And obviously in the last 10 years, it's grown into a kind of global organization, and we've mentored over 10,000 students around the world, and it's been voted top 5 in the UK. And yeah, it just all escalated from that one moment. I really think, you know, where I kind of made the decision to work with young people.
That's awesome. I think you've sort of also been inadvertently amazingly on trend as well, because that sort of time period was sort of the boom of UFC, and I actually had a few friends who went out to those Thai camps as well around probably like 2015. Is that around the same sort of time, maybe a bit earlier? And then yeah, it just sort of took over as I think those things became a lot more popular around that time. So whether or not you planned it or not, it was probably actually very, very good timing to start something like that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think a lot of people have been leaning into martial arts a lot more. I think one of the challenges we've got is the more it's become commercial, the less traditional values there's there. Yeah. You know, if you look at the way a lot of these role models are behaving, people like Conor McGregor, right? The way they're acting, the way they're behaving. For me, while the martial arts technique is amazing, and I love the concept of developing the most efficient martial arts style, and having, you know, the UFC back in the day where you used to have pure kung fu versus karate, and it was just fairly raw, but you basically got to the bottom of no ego, what works, what doesn't work. And I thought that was so cool. But I think the reality is that as it's evolved, it's become more commercial. A lot of money's involved, and it's show business, you know, and sadly, absolutely, for a lot of these guys, you know, while some of them are able to, you know, you look at Georges St. Pierre, you know, people like that, they do a great job of being a great role model and living true to the values. A lot of these guys come from traditional martial arts backgrounds, but then you got other people, you know, who give the wrong image, you know, and that can be quite damaging. So a lot of our work is we basically teach freestyle Taekwondo. So we take all of the the excellent elements of traditional taekwondo, the good conduct, the focus on a moral compass. We add in a lot of modern teaching, character development side, mindful parenting, cyber safety, all this sort of stuff. And then we basically look at martial arts as how can we make it as efficient as possible and really focus on the self-defense and practical application of their training. So we're basically looking to kind of create this martial arts of the future.
Very cool. I think that taekwondo also, as it's it's Olympic sport, right? So as compared to some martial arts, it actually has the opportunity to progress into something that they can do for their country if they want, or as a athlete themselves. Whereas a lot of them, what do you do with all that skill if that is really what you love and you're very good at it? I suppose you have to go down the showbiz route with other skills. But no, that's cool. That's very interesting. So you got the business in the UK, the first place there, and then from there it just sort of expanded into multiple branches. How did that happen? Was that an intentional thing, or was it just a demand-driven natural growth?
So the UK Warrior Academy, it essentially started in village halls and schools across the southwest, pretty much Bath area, up to Salisbury, all the way down to Shaftesbury and up to Chippenham. For anyone who knows what that is. It started, within the first year we had about 150, 200 students. It grew to around 600 students and over 1,000 training a year with us. And about 7-8 years in, we had a really good team in place. We were managing it all. I kind of stepped back quite a bit at that point. And I realized, we really wanted to test the Warrior Academy somewhere urban, in a really populated city. And I thought about London. It's the most obvious choice. And then I was on a long weekend seeing a friend who had moved here, and I realized, Dubai, there's no one in Dubai with the same focus as us on character development. And while it's a bit of a jump to get over here, and there are quite a lot of costs involved to launch a business in Dubai, it's not like in the UK where you can just have 50 quid and a website. Within day one, you've got a business, right? In Dubai, there's a few more hoops to jump through. So, there was all that which slowed us down. But to be honest, it was very quick. I kind of made the decision. I went on this long weekend, and I was in August, actually. Long weekend. Who has a long weekend in Dubai in August? I did.
Yeah, people who don't know how hot it gets, I think that's usually.
I think my friend lied to me when I said, "How hot is it?" He said, "It's fine." You won't even notice it. So you're in aircon most of the time. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's true.
I came home to my wife and our 1-year-old, almost one at that point. And I said to her, we were basically living in like our dream home, like a beautiful barn conversion in Somerset. And
Nice.
life was really good. But I said to her, look, I think we should move to Dubai and start a business over there, just pack everything up and go. What do you think? And, obviously she was quite nervous about the idea. I managed to convince her. I managed to pitch to her the idea, explained it would be really good and that it would be a great adventure. And she was up for it. She was like, okay, cool, let's just do it. So I did lots of small trips, basically to get the word out about the Warrior Academy in Dubai. And we did a lot of advertising on Facebook for the last sort of kind of 6 months before we got to Dubai. Basically dropping pins in a lot of the kind of residential areas across Dubai, with a lot of video content of our messages and what we do, the problems we solve for parents, our methodology, our values, that sort of stuff. Yeah. We weren't really selling at that point. We were just trying to build awareness. And then in January, we did a 3-week backpacking trip with our 1-year-old across Thailand, did some Thai boxing over there, and then I dropped the family off in Heathrow and then flew back to Dubai. Kind of a long way of doing it, but and then I started the Warrior Academy, and about a month later, I said to my wife, look, she's also an instructor. I said to her, look, I need you out here to help me. So I need you guys to. We were gonna get them to kind of move over gradually, but it just happened 4 weeks later. Let's just do it. So we stayed. We moved from our dream home to kind of a studio flat in Marina, where we stayed for 6 months while we were just trying to launch the business. And it grew very, very quickly here. I remember the first 3 months I had in Dubai, I was contacted by the royal family to work with them and to kind of be the character development specialist for their family, working with their children. And so I was teaching a lot in the palace, and then I was, 1 week in London with them, 1 week in Dubai with them, back and forth for about 6 months, while my wife was basically running and building the business here. And then after that summer 2019, we took on more instructors here in Dubai. We built the team in Dubai, and now we're sort of approaching the 600 student mark with our full-time character development center in the center of Dubai. So it's growing very, very quickly. Yeah.
It's very impressive. I think obviously having that validation from royal family over here is probably massive. Do you get a huge amount of local children? What's the mix like in terms of expat versus?
I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things that we never really talk about. People. It's only really on podcast interviews that I get asked. I mean, it's a lot of people are aware of it, but it's not something we pitch. Especially when you've worked with the royal family for quite a long time, the things are very private, and you've got to respect that privacy. But we do have a lot of the royal family from Abu Dhabi, from Dubai, kind of make the trips out there to spend a lot of time in our center. So we still work with the royal family, but yeah. So it's definitely. I mean, having that credibility was a massive benefit to us, and obviously a huge privilege, as well to be invited. Especially in the first few months, it really kind of attested to our belief that we had something very unique in the Middle East.
Yeah, definitely. I think also, you're adding a lot of discipline. A massive part of that would be, to be good at any sort of physical skill, you need discipline to stick at it. And I might be wrong, but in many cases, it seems like discipline is sort of taken a backseat in schools and families everywhere, really, actually, or mainly in the UK for sure. And here, I don't know, you see it a little bit. So maybe taking ownership of that side of the child's life is quite attractive to a parent to sort of outsource it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the tricky thing, I think, in Dubai, and I may have slightly alternative views to a lot of parents in Dubai, but I think first of all, I think parenting it's constantly evolving, right? And what our parents did now, we would shake our heads at, and what their parents did, they'd shake their heads at. And I think a lot of parents have this element of guilt or almost shame or concern about that. Are they doing the right thing? Are they doing the wrong thing? And I think there's some fundamentals in place which parents can focus on to make some real developments with their children, right? And for us, that's that focus on the 3 C's: confidence, conduct, and concentration, which basically make up the character. But it's interesting what you say. One of the big C's for us is conduct. And conduct is the way a child holds himself. It's their behavior. It's a lot of that stems from what the parents believe behavior is, and what good behavior is or bad behavior is, and how these things are labeled. So often especially with the cultural diversity in Dubai, a lot of people are very straightforward and blunt in the way they approach the subject of raising their children or behavior. And we often have parents coming to us and explaining, here's my child, they're very badly behaved, they're very naughty. Can you solve this problem? And the first thing we look at is, well, we can certainly help them, improve their discipline or improve their focus. But really, we need to look at the language used around the child, because they're listening all the time. It's even my daughter, she picks up whatever I say. So it's one of those things where we try and encourage parents to inspire through language, right? So discipline and behavior. One of those things you brought up. It's such a big part of what we do, and there is the culture around here. As you mentioned again, of sort of outsourcing that, but. I mean, for me, I'm a fairly hands-on dad. We don't have any help, although it'd be quite nice to sort of nannies or maids or anything. I'm the sort of, not that it's a bad thing to have that, but I think it can be quite easy to kind of fall into the trap of being very reliant on it as a parent, and then obviously that's not necessarily a good thing, because ultimately you want to be the one spending time with your children to develop them in the way that you want to develop them.
Yeah, of course.
But the way often I see parenting is you can't be there all the time. So it's important to build a team, and building a team is about finding those you feel would be the ultimate role models for your child, right? So often, you know, what we look at is what we call the communication triangle. So when you've got, you know, parents, the child's obviously the center of the whole triangle. It's about the child. One of the key points is the parents. They spend the most time with the child typically. Then you've got school, where a child spends sort of 8 hours a day. You know, huge influence is the teacher or the assistant teacher at the school. And then of course there's this other element, and that other element we typically want to steer parents towards us as that element, because our focus is on character development, and this sort of stuff is not a focus in school, and actually in a lot of cases it's not a focus at home. So, you know, for us it's character development it's the most important yet often missing aspect of a child's education, you know, and as I mentioned at the very beginning of this story, if we can really focus on developing a child's character, it influences every decision they make in their life, from, you know, the work they seek, the relationships they develop, and just alters the route in which they take. So we try and be that support network for parents. But really the Warrior Academy is almost like a movement, right? It's saying to parents, look, traditional education is great, but let's put the majority of our focus on developing the character of a person.
Yeah, I actually agree with that as an ethos, if you like. I think the focus just on grades itself doesn't actually prepare them for the reality of having to be liked, actually, or get on with people, or be able to communicate and be socialized, basically, so that they're not outcast in, you know, in the real world from other people. So yeah, it's definitely a shame that's not.
It's quite ironic, really. If you place all of your focus on developing a child's grades, it rarely impacts their character, their confidence, conduct, and concentration. Right? On the flip side of that, if you put all of the focus on developing a child's character, their conduct, their concentration, their confidence, it directly influences their grades. We had a survey of 2,000 parents in 2018, and something like 95% of parents said they saw an increase in their child's focus. And on average, we basically were in communication with the schools as well. And on average, these students, because of the program they went through with us to develop their focus, their grades went up by 26%. Wow. So it was really interesting for us. I mean, we're very data driven. We study the data on everything. You know, when you sign up to the Warrior Academy, essentially, we ask you to fill in the breakthrough area assessment. So you get a score for confidence, conduct, concentration, and community. And then every 3 months, we're looking to up the percentages. So your child might start with 25% confidence, but in 3 months, we want to see that at 60%. You know, 3 months later, we want to see that at 75%. So to actually say to a parent, look, we're actually taking the big gray area of character development and making it a very tangible thing which you can work towards, I think it's quite unique.
Definitely. It sounds like it's quite difficult data to get hold of, though. Is that like an assessment process, or how do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's if there are any parents listening to this right now, it's something you can use right now. And so if you go to breakthrougharea.com, it's basically 45 questions. It's a scorecard, so it's 45 questions. They're mostly yes, no answers, and it's not filled in by us. It's filled in by the parents. So once you fill this in, you get a personalized PDF report, which is sent to your email address, which basically outlines what your child's levels are in each of the C's, and then it explains what their breakthrough area is. The breakthrough area is often the lowest level of the C. So for instance, a child might typically have high levels of conduct and concentration. So that they're very good academically. They can study hard. They can, you know, they don't mind focusing. They can focus for a long time. But their confidence is low. They don't like trying new things. They might struggle socially. And so confidence would be their breakthrough area. You work on bringing the confidence up to a higher level, and suddenly all the 3 C's are up to a higher level, ultimately developing a black belt character. So that's in a nutshell, that's basically our method. And you know, on the flip side of that, the child could have really high confidence, you know, loads of energy. Yeah. Typically children with ADHD fit into this, right? Yeah. But they lack in conduct, they lack in concentration. And the interesting thing about that is, you know, they've got all this energy, and my daughter's probably in this bracket, to be honest, at 4 years old. And, you know, they've got all this energy, and they're told they're not very well behaved because they're not focusing. But the reality is, right, you know, they need something more engaging to keep them focused. And there's always something there. A lot of these parents, you know, if I ask them, you know, my son's really naughty, he can't focus, he's, you know, he never study, he never focus at school. Okay, so he can't focus. Have you ever seen him play Xbox for 5 hours in a go? Yeah. Oh yeah, he can do that. So he can focus. He can focus, right? But what you need to do is find a way to engage him in something which is really stimulating, right? It could be a mixture of mind and body together. So it's as you can kind of see, it depends how deep you go down the rabbit hole, but it's a fascinating subject. And really, when you dig in and you become very data driven, it's quite reassuring for parents, because they've suddenly got a route they can use to develop their child's character. And I think that's quite inspiring for parents. I think that's
Definitely.
a big reason why we're quite popular in Dubai, because we've got a very alternative way of looking at a child's development.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about just taking ownership of the whole education process and creating, a school, a day school that is built on that philosophy?
Taking over GEMS and just saying, right, from now on, we're not going to work on academics. We're gonna work on a character development instead.
Well, it's funny, because I actually went to a school which runs on that philosophy, right? So it's an independent school which is built on Ayurvedic philosophy. So we had compulsory meditation twice a day. We had taekwondo twice a week in the middle of the day, and compulsory, yeah. So we did compulsory Sanskrit.
Where was this?
It's in London, so yeah, it's a very small independent school.
That's
currently
fantastic.
It's a bit unusual, and don't get me wrong, there's multiple outcomes from that, and there's some people who really resent their experience there. It was probably quite hard on the discipline, maybe a bit outdated even in their way of doing things. But in hindsight, I appreciate what I got out of it. I would probably fall into that category of not being able to focus, not perhaps just being engaged enough, whatever it was. But that does exist as a concept, and it's growing rapidly. They're doing very well as a school. So when I was there was only about 300 of us, and now they're well over 1,000. So there's definitely a demand for that within the education system.
I think people are looking for alternatives to the norm. I think, especially in the UK, I feel like the educational system needs disruption. And I feel like a push towards some of the softer skills is needed. But it's interesting what you say. That a few people might resent what they have in the younger. And I often think it's we never really know what the outcome's going to be, right? And sometimes what we go through when we're younger, it creates voids for us to kind of fill as we grow up, and we don't know the benefits they've given us. It's similar in a similar way to bullying. A lot of our work is on bullying, and we've interviewed so many parents to help mentor their children through bullying. We've got a 6P system to basically mentor parents to mentor their children through bullying. And I kind of look back at bullying because I also was bullied quite badly for 4 years. It's probably one of the reasons I started the War Academy in the first place. And I ended up in a school probably fairly similar to this in terms of the discipline, very hardcore discipline. I went from 40 in a class in Aldershot to kind of 8 in a class, but very academic, very, very harsh on discipline, which in some ways was good because I needed a lot of discipline at that stage. But in other ways, I was punished if I didn't keep up academically when these guys have had 6 years of private education before me. And in those ways it was tricky. So, but often I kind of look back and I think, the bullying I went through because of that transition. A lot of the work we do is helping people with transitions. Bullying being one of them, changing schools being another, adolescence being another. But the kind of the voids of created through going through bullying really made me focus on becoming a stronger character, becoming having the ability to defend myself, having higher self-esteem, developing my confidence. Do you know what I mean? And then inspired me to do the same for other people. So. Yeah, just interesting.
Yeah, it is. I was looking at some of your stuff earlier, and there's one thing you said on that subject. It was that the bully is the victim, which I kind of understand, but not perhaps as much as I feel like I should do. It seems sort of counterintuitive that the aggressor is the victim in that scenario.
Totally. I mean, so I just written a book called Not a Victim, which should be out in 2 months. It's the second book.
Awesome.
It goes along with an online course and actually a children's book as well with my co-author Manu Siebinger. And basically our whole mission is to mentor 1 million children through bullying. And one of the things we've realized in this whole research phase of learning about bullying and basically trying to become experts in bullying, with our mission of making parents experts in bullying so they can help their children with that transition. We really realized that a lot of the common beliefs people have with bullying are completely flawed. First of all, I mean, if you look at some of the biggest organizations like Stomp Out Bullying or Stop Bullying, it's all geared around preventing bullying from ever happening, which is never going to happen. We're never going to stop bullying from ever happening. You know, bullying, unfortunately, is just a part of the human experience. When humans socialize with other humans, undoubtedly there's going to be bullying involved. We can't change the fact that our children are going to go through bullying. You know, something like 80% of children have gone through some form of bullying, especially now with cyberbullying. So we can't stop our children going through bullying, but what we can do is change the way in which they respond to it or how they deal with it. So a lot of our focus is not on looking at bullying and stopping it from happening, which is obviously a very healthy thing to do and should be encouraged, but more to do with how we can develop a parent and their child and their relationship together to approach it in a different way. And one of those ways, as you brought up, is the bully as the victim. And this is when I started doing workshops across Dubai, and we had planned to do workshops we had them booked out in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, London, Amsterdam, all over the world before COVID hit, and then had to stop everything and go online. But a lot of what I realized in these workshops was I was kind of going in with black belt content, and some parents weren't ready for it. Some parents were like, "This is awesome." And a few parents were just not ready for some of the statements that I came out with. One of the statements is, I would encourage parents to forgive their child's bully. And you try and explain that to an emotional parent who's going through bullying. And the interesting about that is when we go through bullying ourselves, we mentor our children through bullying, we actually relive our previous bullying experiences. So there's previous emotional triggers that resurface. So it just intensifies the whole thing. So it's a highly emotive subject. It's basically trauma, reliving trauma. So, you know, so a lot of the parents were like, how can I possibly forgive my child's bully? They're beating them up every day. They're horrible to them. They're vicious. It's this and that. And, you know, what I would say is it's, first of all, and step one of the 6 Ps that we have to take children through, step one is perception. So we've got to change the way in which children and parents, perhaps even more parents, look at the bullying and put it in the context. What context do we put bullying in? And when I say to forgive your child's bully, what I'm actually referring to is to forgive them selfishly. And what I mean by that is don't do it for the bully, you're doing it for yourself. Because if your child goes in to the environment where they're being bullied and they've got all this resentment built up for the bully, it's only going to reinforce the bully-victim relationship, right? So what we do is we basically try and take the carpet from under the bully's legs by reframing the whole situation, replacing intimidation and fear with empathy and sympathy and understanding. Where does bullying come from in the first place? Why is this person showing these bullying traits? And we try not to call people a bully, but displaying bullying behavior or traits. And once we can kind of put that across, this is why we've written a children's book to go along with this, right? It's not necessarily this bully is a bad person, but there's this flow of negative energy. And suddenly, you know, we've almost had some students, well, we have had some students come to us and say, look, they've actually mentored the bully through the transition of bullying that they're going through. It's like, it's like psychological warfare. I mean, it's like when you hear stuff like that, it's like when a 9-year-old says to you that they sat down with the bully and found out the root cause of their bullying and they talked them through it. It's like you've just, you know, it's emotional intelligence at a whole new level. And this is the sort of stuff, you know, when people say martial arts that teaches you to defend yourself physically, but we're going in there and giving these guys the tools to defend themselves mentally, you know, through understanding, through empathy. And that's, I think, one of the things I'm known for in the martial arts world is when I'm asked what the especially within education, what the best form of self-defense is, and having kind of done 6 different styles and competed professionally around the world, I always say, look, the best form of self-defense is mindfulness and meditation, because you're constantly having to defend yourself from negative thoughts, a strong inner critic, right?
Yeah.
How often do you need to
yeah.
defend yourself physically? Not very.
Well, yeah, and then to be honest, you're you know, in most places you're not actually allowed to. You know, if you go with the immediate and unrelenting violence response, then you end up with a problem rather than the other person,
Yeah.
right? So actually, your approach makes total sense.
It's one of those things where, you know, a lot of parents are, you know, if my child's being bullied, I'm going to get them to retaliate physically, and that will be the end of it, and they've got to be strong. And yes, while that is the case, what you are then doing is, especially if it comes from the father or the dad, you can kind of build in this level of toxic masculinity. So essentially, your son may not feel confident or have the courage to respond physically, goes through bullying without responding the way you want him to, doesn't want to explain to you what he's gone through when he comes home, and then you basically widen the communication gap. So this goes on for years without you knowing. And so yeah, I mean, ultimately a lot of bullying does end physically, you know, when one victim of bullying has had enough, and, you know, they start to develop their courage to a point where the level of courage outweighs the level of uncomfortability, and they're just like, right, I've got to end this, and they respond physically. I know that's the case for a lot of people, but we often, you know, we teach people to de-escalate verbally, psychologically, and the system we've got, you know, which teaches them about the, you know, putting bullying in the right context, but, you know, perception. And then we talk about presentation, so body language, right? And how when they walk into a room, we teach children to walk into a room like they're confident. And I mean, how many martial arts classes teach a child to just go in and out of the dojo 20 times until they look confident, until they got eye contact with all of the main leaders in the room, eye contact, do you know what I mean? And it's just going deep into psychology. It's the sort of stuff that lights me up. I love this stuff.
No, it's awesome. But
I can rant on this for hours.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely read your books as well when they come out. I look forward to that. So we'll put links, whatever, in the bottom when we publish it. Back to the business side of things. So you're still running the UK business as well?
Yeah, so I basically run about 6 different businesses now. Three of them popped up during lockdown. I realized that once we had pivoted the Warrior Academy online, I had more time, because you know, the team were basically running everything in the UK, running everything in Dubai, and I couldn't necessarily do the workshops I was previously doing. And I realized, you know, a lot of the team I had and the resources I had, I could help other business owners. So I you know, for instance, entrepreneurs, I realized entrepreneurs were spending 50 hours a month on social media. So I basically created a partnership with someone with a, you know, guy called Jason Greystone, who's got an amazing online group support network for business owners. And we launched a product called Ubiquitous, which means to be everywhere at once. And so that developed into another kind of 6-figure business in the first week. There were several other businesses that we launched. One was an online course creator with Dubai's leading production house, another partnership. So I was kind of the strategy involved, and they were the filming. And then my team in the Philippines, we've got about 15 full-time staff in the Philippines, would basically develop the online courses and upload them. So within a week, we would take a physical business, like a wine tasting business, or a lifeguarding business, or, you know, whatever it is, into an online business. So in a time where they couldn't generate revenue, they were suddenly able to pivot online and create an income to support their families, to keep their employees, whatever it is, to keep the business running. And obviously, as they've now returned to to physical stuff, they've now got this online asset, which they've their business has evolved. Either they've stayed online, or they've gone hybrid. So they've got this asset which is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them.
Do you think that whole COVID lockdown thing has sort of forced people into this online age, you know, whether they like it or not, in terms of how they need to survive as that? Do you think that's here to stay for sure? If you want to be successful, you need to have an online thing as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2020, you know, COVID, the huge disruption that it caused, accelerated what was going to happen in 10 years into 24 months, right? I mean, I think you know, my mum's a physiotherapist in a village, And even she pivoted online and created an online business, you know, doing virtual consultations and everything. And I just feel like ever so many people have just pivoted because they had to. They had no choice.
Yeah.
And you know, it's pretty inspiring to watch, really. I think people now expect things to be fairly hybrid. They expect you to have an online element to your physical product or service. You know, it's benefited us in a way that, you know, we built WarriorNet. So in the first 10 days of lockdown, we basically filmed every single class from white belt to black belt over a 10-day period. It was something like 700 classes, all about 20 minutes long. It was it's one of the most extensive martial arts online learning environments, you know, that exist. And now, you know, we're back to physical teaching. We've still got students all around the world, Australia, Spain, you know, across Europe, in the US now as well, who don't come with us physically, they're with us virtually. But now, you know, now we're back to physical. If a student misses a class, they can literally do the same class at home from the pre-recording. If they're going on holiday, they can literally follow the same schedule they were going to learn anyway. So there's huge benefits to that kind of hybrid version. But I do feel like a lot of people who you know have pivoted online and thought they could just build an online course and just put it out there, they've missed the point. A lot of people want community, they want familiarity, they want to have an online course, but they want it with someone they know, like, and trust. You know, so it's there are so many different dynamics to making online successful for a business. So a lot of what I do now alongside the Warrior Academy is I basically work with and mentor around 500 business owners a year through workshops. I work with companies like Dent, Najahi Events, F10X, and Tears of Freedom. So I do a lot of workshops. I do a lot of one-on-one mentoring, group accountability, sort of stuff, which is really inspiring stuff. I love working.
An insane amount of growth, to be honest, to go in a year to 500 clients, basically.
Yeah. I mean, some of the workshops are 100 in a time. You know,
right,
so
okay.
I'll probably do a good 3 or 4 massive workshops a year, but it's one of those, you know, I just love doing it. You know, sometimes you just find things you just really enjoy, and I realized a lot of the skills I had used to develop the Warrior Academy and now other businesses, you know, a lot of other business owners can benefit from that. You know, it's you know, I think that the kind of the risks I've taken to grow 6-7 figure businesses, you know, a lot of other people don't need to make the same mistakes I've made.
Yeah, of course.
So I really enjoy working with entrepreneurs. I enjoy working with startups, scale ups, and seeing how they develop, you know?
Yeah. No, that's very cool. I would be keen to do your online Taekwondo class as well. I think I didn't even know that was a thing. I always assumed, you know, with something like that, it would need to be physical, you know, to have mistakes corrected or someone to visually see you. Do you still maintain that online? Is there some way that, like an interaction, or is it like, you know, here's the video, work yourself through it, or do you still spend time speaking with them like this?
Yeah, totally. So first of all, when it comes to kind of if you're just virtual and you can't come to us physically, which we do have quite a few people doing, then what we do is we do virtual classes. We don't call them online classes because I think online's been thrown around a lot, so we call them virtual classes. But really, you know, we cap the classes at 8. So if you look at, you know, if there's 9 people on a Zoom screen, one of them is the instructor. He can see everyone in one snap. And then what we do is we make sure we go around. You know, a lot of it's about community, right? Especially when people were in lockdown. So we would spend time, first 10 minutes, just talking to the children. You know, what have you been up to today? Take it in turns to speak and just, you know, engage and communicate with their friends, and we'd spend that time. So there was that element of, you know, being personal. And then of course we asked them to demonstrate techniques individually, and then leadership's a big part of what we do. So we would ask them to actually lead the Zoom class. So regardless of the age, they would actually take it in turns leading the class through a technique, 1 to 10, their timing, which is quite cool. And then every 2 months we have a catch-up call with parents. So every 2 months we ask parents to fill in the breakthrough area assessment, and we look at their child's confidence, we look at their concentration, we look at their community, you look at their conduct, and we see what needs improvement, what daily habits can we change at home, is there any extra training we can provide to the parents, you know, is there anyone we could introduce them to, whether that's, you know, a mindful parenting workshop or someone in the digital space to help them with that sort of stuff. or are the tweaks we can make in class to make the experience better for children, to accelerate them closer to their goals. So I think for us, we're a premium service in Dubai. We're not like other clubs. We certainly charge more than most clubs, and that's for a very good reason. All of our staff are, British trained. They're British to world champions or best-selling authors, and our classes are capped very, very small. So we make sure it's really intimate.
Awesome. So it sounds like they really don't lose anything by doing it virtually. To be honest, it's the same.
Do you know what? It was the strangest thing, because I remember we were doing a Zoom call with all the instructors, and we were all like, right, because we all had the same thought. How can we possibly teach thousands of students online and make sure they got the same outcome, the same development and technique? And we were just like, well, we've got no choice, so we've got to do it. So let's just crack on. So we did it. And then I started getting messages in from instructors when I was asking them how it went, and they were saying to me, we've gone through the entire syllabus, and we're halfway through the course. We're halfway through the period. They were accelerating through the content quicker, but for some reason, than ever before. And it was this mixture of them being able to absorb themselves in the online pre-recorded stuff and train at home, often with their parents, alongside the fact that it was small, intimate classes, and the instructor was watching them one by one and taking them through that process. And they were actually accelerating through our syllabus very, very quickly. So we had to come up with even more content for them and challenges for them to do, which was really cool. So, now through lockdown, for a lot of our students, we refuse to grade anyone as a black belt online. Has to be physical. So, up in the last year, we've now got about 70 students who have been training at black tag level for a year and are ready for their black belt grading. And it's going to be one of the biggest black belt gradings we've got, considering most students have to stay with us for sort of 8 to 10 years to get a black belt with us. Whereas in other martial arts, it's 3 or 4 years. We're very strict on our belt system. So yeah, it's amazing to see the level of technique these guys have got from home studying, but with that accountability built in.
Very interesting. I guess that kind of makes sense as well. I mean, there's less opportunity for them to get distracted by other things in the room, such as each other, because sort of in their own bubble environment as well. So that
totally. And we were leveraging tech as well, and just saying to parents, look, if you want us to critique a technique of your child, film it, send it to the instructor on WhatsApp, and he'll send you a voice recording back with some tips. And it's just stuff like that, which it was just incredible to see how suddenly everyone embraced technology. It wasn't just we want to come up with another one of Seb's crazy ideas to modify the Warrior Academy to bring something new. It was a case of parents were just up for it. Let's create a WhatsApp broadcast list for anyone who wants to improve technique and have one-on-one from instructors. It was just stuff like that we just did, and it worked really well, because it was at that time where everyone was moving online at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool. In terms of your sort of future plans for the business, where do you see it going? Have you got a clear plan, or
so we've got a 5-year plan. So essentially, a lot of what we do is linked to scholarships. So 10% of our students in the UK are on a scholarship. So 90% pay for their tuition, 10% are on scholarships, and that's typically students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Students who are siblings of children who are terminally ill. So we work with a lot of hospices. We work with military families when their parents go away for 6 to 12 months at a time, and we work with the children so they get extra mentoring. And so scholarships in that regard. A lot of what we're trying to do, it is quite difficult during COVID, although I'm in communication right now with 3 orphanages in India. But essentially what we'd like to do is, for every student in the Warrior Academy in the next 5 years, and we expect to be around the 20,000 mark in the next 5 years, for every student in the Warrior Academy, we want to have another student somewhere in the world on a scholarship. And what we'd quite like to do is for those scholarships to be in orphanages in third world countries, because that's where we feel we can make the most impact. And really there's kind of 20-year vision of that or 15-year, is that when a child goes through our program, they become a black belt, we automatically give them a job. So they're automatically given a job with us, because part of becoming a black belt is learning how to teach. At the end of their junior black belt, they do an assistant instructor's course for a year. We guarantee them a job. So now we've got about 20 teenagers in the UK who are now starting work with us. We'd like that kind of vision to be embedded into the orphanages and the partnerships we make around the world. You know, if you can just imagine, you know, a group of orphans from India growing up to become instructors in Dubai, and or even manning and looking after managing that particular Warrior Academy. That's our vision, just to see that go full circle.
That's very cool. I was actually going to ask you earlier how you go about finding staff, because it seems like there's probably not a massive pool of people available. You know, for some jobs, put an advert out and you get 2,000 applications in a minute, but I'd imagine for a Taekwondo instructor, it's a bit of a smaller pool. So you kind of solved that.
Yeah, it solved it long term, right? If you can wait 10 years. But I mean, I mean, yes, in that regard, yeah. In the regard of, we are training up our students to become instructors as well, should they wish to go down that route, then yes, we are. But in terms of recruitment and stuff, what I found to be the best way to do it is to ask our current instructors to go and speak to their friends who they can vouch for, who they trained with, or, you know, they've seen them in action, they know they're good. So a lot of the people applying now are people from the GB team, ex-Olympians, this sort of stuff, because we're now in a network of people who are super high level martial artists who really, they finished competing, but they're desperate to give back. They're desperate to continue doing what they were so passionate about. And for us, it's just a case of, we're sure their technique's good. Let's assess that. And then how are they with young people? You know, how passionate are they about the character development side? So there's all these other elements. It's one thing finding someone who's good at martial arts, and it's a whole other thing finding someone who's good at martial arts, has, you know, rocket high levels of emotional intelligence, so they can understand deep pain points from parents and create a super fun, engaging class for children. So there's a lot of elements.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a tough search, but it's awesome what you're doing. I actually think that's it's much more than I thought. You know, from the outside, it sort of looked like, you know, Taekwondo school, but yeah, that's very cool. I think probably changing a lot of people's lives, and that's probably the sweet spot, to have a business which is successful financially for yourself, but also beneficial to people. I think, you know, that's not that common. And that must be quite
100%.
Quite a nice place to be.
It's one of those things. I think, you know, the business side I enjoy. It's fun to create a business and watch the business grow and provide that kind of security to your family and all sorts. But I think for me, what really lights me up is our kind of big vision and the scholarships, and, you know, just the messages we get from parents and tears about the impact we've made to their children's lives, especially the bullying side of things. That's something there's a huge element of that in what we do, and it's really heartwarming to see those changes.
Very cool. Quick fire. I think we've been here quite a while now, but if someone wanted to relocate abroad, top tips, you know, things that you would recommend?
Business owners, or
just anyone, just as an expat, I think. Cool. Business owners, let's do that. That's probably more relevant.
Business owners or expat, it's kind of similar in a lot of ways. I would say search out for groups, online Facebook groups, to just get involved socially. If you're doing it, if you're traveling with your wife, ask her to do the same thing, and get involved socially as soon as you do go out. Sometimes we look back at you know, where would we move here, would we move there. One of the brilliant things about Dubai is that there's quite a strong expat community, and within these kind of compounds you tend to have fairly good communities where, you know, you can be a part of. People tend to stick together because they're all in the same boat. So that would probably be my biggest tip. In terms of business, if you're launching a business, that's a whole big rabbit hole to jump down.
That is massive.
Pluck one tip.
No, fair enough. Cool. Well, look, where can people find you if they want to find out more, if they're interested in getting involved or getting their kids involved in what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So if you're in Dubai or the UK and you're looking, you know, for the Warrior Academy, you can go to warrioracademy.co.uk or .ae. If you would like to get an insight into your child's breakthrough areas, so one of the 3 C's to find out which level they're at and get a personalized report, you can go to breakthrougharea.com. If you want to find out about the Not a Victim movement and learn how you can mentor your child through bullying very, very quickly, then go to notavictim.co.uk. And if you're looking for mentoring, business mentoring with me, then just go to sebastianbates.com.
Awesome. And you do social media and stuff like that as well? Is that a big
Yeah,
part
you
of...
can find me on Instagram, seb.bates on Instagram, or Warrior Academy on Instagram.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was super interesting.